that I use every day. It's by an author called Bob Goff. And if you guys are not familiar with Bob, he's written several books. Love Does, Everybody Always. He just came out with a new one called Dream Big. Bob is a great, great writer. Really speaks from love and how that works, how God uses that to work through our lives. I've really found a lot of meaning in his words. So to start, I'd like to read a passage from it. Jesus did not want us just to be believers. He wanted us to be participants. From Colossians 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not our human masters, not for human masters. I'm sorry. It's a story he writes. When my kids were young, they loved to read choose-your-own-adventure books. They would speed read up to the points where they were faced with a choice that would alter the direction of the story based on what they decided. Have y'all ever seen those books? They're kind of like video games. I think Netflix has even got some shows now where you get the concept. So I got into books too because they felt like you're participating in the story. We all like that feeling, but we're not just passive readers waiting to see what happens. We're characters. We're protagonists. We're heroes. We all like to shape the story while we're living it. These books mirror the story that God is writing through us. We might not encounter the obstacles on exotic islands like the kids in the stories, but we face choices every day that move the narrative in one direction or another. We're active participants in the story God's writing. We're not just observers. We have been invited to be active participants. None of us will know all the outcomes until the end. It's a good bet we'll find out God has made right some of the wrong choices that we've made along the way. Some of the choices we thought were right will no doubt turn out to be wrong. Here's the thing. Jesus didn't want us just to be believers. He wanted us to be participants. God set his story in motion with us in mind, inviting us to join with him as he moves to bring restoration to everything around us. So don't settle for being a passive observer in the story God is writing around you. Jump into action right where you are and take note of what happens. And that's kind of what I'm doing tonight, guys. I'm jumping in. Something that's been on my heart, and here I am. So at the end of this story, he asks one question. In what ways is God inviting you to be more of an active participant in what he's doing? So for me, here I am. But that's something for y'all to think about as we go along in this tonight. All right. So again, y'all bear with me. We're just going to shoot from the hip. All right. So this is a story about grace. This is a story about how God works miracles every day. This is a story about love. This is my story. Growing up, I had two very, very amazing parents that were supportive, that showed me love, that kept me in church every week, that led me down the right path. Like I said, I grew up going to church every Sunday. I was very active in our youth group. Went through confirmation classes at my church, the whole 9 yards. At the age of about 11 or 12, I made the decision to give my life to Christ. As I got older, becoming a teenager, I strayed from that path. Some started picking up some bad habits, probably. Started hanging out with some of the wrong people. Started smoking cigarettes. Started drinking a little bit. Started partying a little bit. Started not being a bad kid, not getting into a lot of trouble or anything like that, but just not probably the plan that God had for me at the time, right? So continue with that through high school. Ended up in college. Found out pretty quick that I'd much rather hang out with my friends and do things that I wasn't supposed to do than I was go to class and go to college. So I ended up dropping out. I dropped out of college and spent the next couple years of my life following my favorite band around the country. Doing, we did things that certainly probably not proud of now, but that got us by, at the time. I look back at those times and honestly, I wouldn't trade them for the world because I've met some of the most amazing people in my life that are still in my life, through those times. But again, I was heading down the wrong path in a hurry. Whether it was just partying or drugs or alcohol, as I look back on it now, like I really, at those days, and it's lucky I didn't end up number one in jail or dead. I mean, seriously. Man, I remember my dad was so worried too, like especially when I dropped out of school. He was freaking out. What are you gonna do? You don't need to do this. Oh my goodness. He was so worried. He was so worried. Well, one night I went to a concert in Memphis, Tennessee. It was November of the year 2000. Which y'all weren't even born then, probably, right? No. Yeah. So anyway, and I'm there with a bunch of my friends, and it's before the concert. We're hanging out, and up walks the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. She's sitting right there. Say hey to you. There was something about it. And like, here's the thing, I'm looking back, I wasn't even smooth with it all, right? Like, I remember telling her, oh, I've heard a lot about you or something, and that was like that was my big line, I guess. But we had fun that night, we hung out, had a good time. Ended up at the end of the night, we go where she goes with her friends, I go with my friends. Wasn't thinking much of it. Didn't even ask for my number. Didn't even ask for the number. Didn't even get them digits. But a couple of nights later, I was at work. I was working at Harbor Road Chevron in Corinth, Mississippi at the time. Phone rings at the store. Hello? Oh, it's my good friend Leanne. Leanne says, oh my goodness, my friend McKinney is just dying to know more about you and all this. Guys, like, when she told me that, and me and Mackenzie talked on the first time on the phone, it's crazy, but like, I started playing out our lives already in my head, right? It was like this dream of how we're gonna be a family. This is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what, that woman saved me, y'all. She did. She changed my direction. Mm-hmm. She started me on a new path. And I have no doubt that God put her there. Right? Right. So Mackenzie and I start dating. She also has a daughter named Quinlan. So here I am at 20 years old, go from being this long-haired hippie kid that's more worried about, smoking dope and music and having fun and hanging out with my friends to, oh my goodness, I've got a family. I've got people that depend on me. I've got a purpose. And that was the purpose of my life. A couple years after we were together, my dad passed away. I lost both my parents within the span of 2 years. And I was still a kid in my heart. Even though I had a wife at this point, I had a 5-year-old daughter at this point who I'd already been raising for a couple of years. I still felt like a kid. And after my dad's funeral, one of his co-workers came up to me. She said, Matt, Bill used to talk to us just a whole lot. He was worried about you, where you were going to go, and, what was going to happen. When you and Mackenzie got together, Bill came to me and he said, I'm not worried about Matt. I'm not worried about me. So off we went. to start a family, to start a life. A few years later, we have Silas. Everything's going great. You know, we bought a house. We've got, you know, I've got a good job at this point. McKinney's doing well. But still, I had this feeling that something was missing, right? It was missing in my life. And at this point, I was still away from God, right? I had not gotten back to that point. And so I didn't realize it at the time, but that was, you know, obviously kind of what was missing. But hey, we were a young couple. We did our best. Proud to say that we raised two amazing human beings that I could not be more proud of. But being a young couple, the stress and just the life, you know, it starts to add up. It starts to take a toll on them. The financial stress, you know, we ran into some issues with that. And you in the back of your head, God, there's something more out here. There's something, you know, what's really going on here? I was also very, very, very devoted to my job. I was with a company that I was proud to be with and had made up my mind to do whatever it took to climb that corporate ladder, to get to that position, to get to that money, to get to that brass ring, to get to whatever it was I thought I was missing. I thought I needed, right? The worst part about all that, guys, is my focus was not where it was supposed to be. I was so focused on work. I was so focused on everything else. I was not seeing the cracks forming in the foundation. I was not seeing that what I considered to be Mackenzie's gripes and the way she would nag me and all this, for what it really was just her genuine concern. She was wanting me. She didn't care about the money or the status or any of that. She wanted me to be there with her, with the family. But at the time, I took it as nag. I took it as we're growing apart. We're two different people now. I don't know what we're doing, right? I let my job and my choices take me down the wrong path. And that path led to some pretty dark places. And eventually, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I turned my back on the one thing that mattered the most to me in the world. It's my family. I thought I wanted something more. I thought I wanted something different. I thought we had grown too much apart. I didn't think we were, you know, I thought there was whatever. I left. Walked out the door. Still to this day, the most regrettable thing I've ever done in my entire life. It pains me to even think about it. So I left. I moved back to Corinth, where I'm from. Got a little house, moved in with a buddy of mine for a few months until I found my own place. Was doing what I wanted to do, right? Was doing what I wanted. Not what was good for everybody else. What I wanted. And as I look back at that now, I realize just how selfish that was. Just how, you know, there wasn't anything that was right about it. And so a few months into that, what I thought I wanted ends up, the new wears off of that. You start to get lonely, you start to question it.
Man, I miss my family. God, I miss them. One of my biggest comforts during that time was my first cousin and my best friend, Brad. Brad lived right around the corner from me in Corinth. Of course, we were family, but we were 11 or 12 years apart in age, so weren't close. He was a lot older than I growing up, so it wasn't until our adult lives that we really connected and became really good friends. And I look back on that now, and I needed to be there for Brad too, right? Because he was going through some stuff at the time. He was struggling with some issues. We needed each other, but I remember plain as day him telling me, man, it's going to work out, man. It's going to work. You're going to be where you're supposed to be. Patience. Have faith. I couldn't see that at the time, right? I'm like, oh, woe was me, man. I've made this, my mistake. What am I going to do? What am I going to, I remember I'd lay in bed at night thinking about the hurt that I caused to the people that meant the most to me. So I guess there's been about a year or two gone by during this time, right? And I remember Brad showed up at my house one day. He handed me a check for $5,000. He said, use this money, get your butt back in the Albany where you belong, go be closer to your family, and go make it happen. That's what I did. So I came back to New Albany, focused on doing whatever it took to try to put my family back together. I had rented a small house, big enough for me and Silas at the time. Bless his heart, we didn't even have a bedroom over there, but he, put a curtain up and kind of made it one. And it worked for a while. And thank God Silas was with me at that time, because I'm not sure I would have made it through without him. He was my rock. My rock. So through that year, again, I'm doing everything that I think I can to try to make, to get my family back together, to do this, to do that, all the while not fully considering the pain I had caused McKinney's, what I had done to her. Why should she take me back? She trusted me more than anything in the world. And I broke that trust. And so it didn't happen at first, right? It didn't happen right off the bat. And guys, I tell you, it's the most agonizing time of my life. Depression, anxiety, questioning, do I even want to be here anymore? I remember being on my knees and begging God. Although I hadn't been living right? I hadn't been doing the right things. I prayed to God only for what I wanted, for what it was all still about me. So during that time, my brother came to see me, and he gave me a copy of a book. It's one of Bob Goff's books, where I found out about Bob. It was called Everybody Always. And I highly encourage y'all to look that up. It's a really good read. And I read this book, and it gave me hope. It gave me faith. It
started to restore my faith in Christ. It started to strengthen my relationship with God again. And guys, I prayed and prayed, and I was struggling. I was so depressed. I couldn't work. I couldn't function. I wasn't keeping to the house. I wasn't being there for Silas like I needed to be at the time. I was consumed by what I had done. And for the longest time, I couldn't forgive myself. And it took me coming to the realization that in order for me to forgive myself, I had to pull it all out. Every skeleton that was in that closet, every bit of it. I had to own my actions for me, for my accountability, to say, this is my fault. It was tough. It was tough. I remember I had anybody that I was talking to at the time, any of my friends, anybody that came around, like, I don't want to talk about the kids and how I can, give me some advice on how I can get her back. What can I do? It was consumed, right? I had people tell me, Matt, bro, just move on. Just, hey, it is what it is, man. I'm sorry, but just move on. But I knew, right? God had it in my heart. It's where I was supposed to be. And so I didn't give up. I kept fighting. I probably annoyed the mess out of her for a hot minute. Look, I was worse than a teen. I'm talking about 37 text messages in a row, just typing novels out of it. You know how y'all get? It was bad, guys, like for real. But I knew it would work. I remember that it was around Christmas time. McKinney's had told me, okay, hey, would you come over to the house for Christmas? We'll do with the kids and see how that goes and this and that. And I remember being at my house Christmas Eve, so paralyzed by depression and the fear of it not working out, of it not being exactly what I thought it should be when I went over there, this and that, that I thought about not even going. And God sent an angel at my door. It's my dear friend Jillian, who I had actually only met a year or so before. Come to find out, her and Mackenzie had been friends for a whole lot longer than that. Jillian had been my sounding board a lot during that time, right? She had been the objective one who would give me advice about this and that. And I remember she knocked on my door that Christmas Eve with a wrapped gift for me to take with me. She said, "Get your butt up, get in that shower, and get over it. You're only going to regret not doing it." And I did. I did. And I'm certainly glad that I did. Fast forward a few months later, my cousin Brad is having problems of his own. He was in a pretty funky relationship, and was going through some hard times. He had been at my house for a couple days because we were each other's guy, right? That was like, he was the one person I told everything to. There were no secrets. Everything was out on the table. And we were just always there for each other. He's my best friend. And so he's at the house, and so he comes, and he's there, and Silas is there that afternoon. Silas is playing video games. I forgot where we were. But anyway, Silas was hungry.
I said, all right, I'll tell you what, we'll run down the road, pick you up something to eat. Be back in a few minutes. So we go to Wendy's. We're coming back home. And less than a mile from my house, we're going down the road, and I happen to see coming two cars. One car's going along, the other car behind him. I comment to Brad, holy crap, they're going to retirement too fast. I don't know if y'all guys know where Airport Road is, other side of the county, but that's where this was. So we're talking about 2 Main County Road. And the next thing I know, from me to this young man sitting right in front of me, that car was in my lane. They were going, the police estimated approximately 85 miles an hour. Bang. That, the impact still gives me, it still gives me chills. I only remember a few things from right after it happened. I remember the young lady, or a young lady, that happened to be behind us when that happened. It came to my window. Her name is Taylor Hall. She was a student in New Albany, didn't know her beforehand. She just happened to be the one behind us. She's the one that thankfully was there, was able to call 911. And I remember her coming to my window, and I remember telling her, call McKinney's, and could give her McKinney's phone. Even though we were separated, we weren't living together, like, call McKinney's, call McKinney's. I remember wiping blood off. I knew I was hurt. I knew I was hurt worse than I'd ever been hurt before. I didn't know how bad. I remember Brad was sitting next to me. I remember him moaning. The pain, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I held his hand. I told him it's going to be all right. I said, we're going to get through it. We're going to be okay. We're okay. We're okay. I love you. We're okay. And I prayed. I prayed harder than I had ever prayed in my life. I prayed for him. I prayed for the other 2 boys that were in the other car. I prayed for myself. I said, God, if you'll give me a chance, I won't waste it. I won't. Through that cracked windshield, I could see one of the other boys that was in the other car folded up in the back seat. Both of those young men, both 15 or 16 years old, I think. They went to Ripley. They went to Ripley High School. Both of them were killed instantly. Football players for Ripley. I remember putting in the ambulance. I remember the fireman. I remember the first responders getting to my door, and I remember begging him, get Brad out first. Get Brad out first. I wasn't worried about me at the time. I was more worried about him. They couldn't, because the way the car was sitting. They had to cut, I had to, come out first. They put me in an ambulance. And the next thing I remember was waking up in Tupelo Hospital. It's a picture of my car. Y'all are welcome to look at that a little bit closer if you'd like to, but and so I got to the hospital, and I remember, I remember not wanting to fall asleep in the ambulance, and God, I remember praying. I prayed so long. And when I got to the hospital, I remember seeing the lights as they wheeled me in the emergency room. And then I remember seeing McKinney's and Queen, my daughter, who were right there, who showed up, who, when I needed it the most, dropped every single thing they were doing, and were right there with me.
They were taking him back to what they call life or limb. So we didn't know
If he was going to make it or not.
the last time we went to see him, if he was gonna, if he was gonna be,
So
do a wheelchair for the rest of his
I had emergency surgery. And when I woke up in intensive care, first thing I asked for was Brad. I had it, guys. I had his hand. I told him it was going to be okay. And when I asked where Brad was, I can't remember if it was my brother or it was McKinney or who it was. And they said, "Man, I'm so sorry, he's gone. He died at the hospital." I walked away from this. I'm standing here in front of you today after this. 3 other people aren't. 3 other people lost their lives that day. And I lost my best friend. 2 sets of parents in Ripley had just lost their teenage sons. What have I done to deserve to be here? Why was I the one? But I knew from the moment I woke up that God saved me for a reason.
That's right. That's right.
That there was more work to be done. That He was not through with me. That I knew something was there. Since that time, man, it was a lot of hard work. I was in that hospital. I ended up having 5 total surgeries on my leg. I now currently have 6 rods, 130 something screws from my knee to my ankle. I've got a metal rod in my arm. I ended up having to have bowel obstruction surgery because the seatbelt caused, and I had to end up with 18 inches of my small intestine removed. Whatever. So we're talking 6 weeks in the hospital. The guys, the love that I was shown, the people that showed up for me, the friends in my life that, you go through this life and you wonder, am I doing this right? Am I doing it right? Am I making a difference? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? All that love that was shown to me, I knew I had it. It was humbling. It was overwhelming. The whole thing changed my entire perspective. And she was there every day. Every single day. She was right there. I knew what I wanted. I wanted nothing more than to have my family back. Than for us all to be together. But I wasn't sure if that's what she still wanted. And I remember laying in the hospital, and McKinney came in on this side. He says, I still remember for days I prayed for what I have now. And I started crying. I prayed for those same things.
That's all. That's all I had wanted. So we decided, hey, we're going to do it. We're going to put it back together. We're going to rebuild what was broken. Right there from that hospital bed, without knowing, honest to God, if I would ever walk again, we booked a trip to go to Mexico to go see our favorite band. I took my first step. My accident was on August 23rd, 2019. I took my first steps mid-January of 2020. The first time I walked since the accident. And I'm talking baby steps, y'all. I mean, it wasn't, well, in a couple weeks, we're on the beach in Mexico. Because we were going to do that. I was determined. And we went down and we were able to, we renewed our vows, recommitted our love to each other. And I knew at that time, as hard as that pain had been, as much depression and anxiety as it had caused so many people, that it was in a way necessary. Because I hadn't learned the lessons yet. I hadn't learned what it took to be a real husband, to be a real father. For the first time in my life, my priorities were lined up exactly like they should be. I went back to work. But I went back to work with a whole new attitude. I went back to work and saw work for what it was. It was a job, right? That's all it was a job. It was a paycheck that provided income, but it was not my life anymore. It was not my lifestyle anymore. I was able to do that, but and I'm back at work for a year, and I've still got this just burning demon that God, there's something more. I'm supposed to be doing something else. God has different plans. There's a different route to take. There's something is still missing. So after almost 20 years with the same company, with a good salary, a good job, and benefits, and all that stuff, I left. I didn't know what I was going to really do. I mean, I had a job lined up, don't get me wrong. I knew it wasn't my life's purpose by any means, but I knew it was the next step I had to take to get me there. I knew it was where God was leading. And I prayed about it. It's been about a year. And since that time, I've reconnected, number one, with my faith. I've reconnected with the love that God has shown me. And I've tried to put that back out into the world. I've always tried to be a good person. But now I try to do it with purpose. With intent. To walk out the door every day and go out of my way to try to make a difference for somebody. Whether it's a compliment to the person you're holding the door to, or
giving $1 to the homeless guy you see on the street, to picking up a stray puppy on the side of the road, to whatever it is. I want my life to lead with love. And I've been praying. I've been praying. I've been praying for God to show me the way, to show me the signs that I need to see, to stay on that right track. To God to put people in my life that lead me to His purpose. So I don't want to do what I want to do anymore. I'm ready to do what He wants me to do.
That's right.
That's the first time I've ever said that out loud, outside of prayer. But it's where my heart is. And so it has been something that I've been praying. Saturday night, my phone rings. Who is it? It's my old friend Leanne. Said, hey, we'd love you to come speak at church. Would you be interested in doing that? And here I am. I call that a sign, guys. Right? And I think that's what, if we go through life and we keep our eyes open and we're able to pick up on those signs, God's going to take you to the path where you're supposed to be. All this has changed me. It changed my perspective. It changed my priorities. God, it got me back closer to God. Because when I was at my lowest, He never left. Even though He didn't give it to me when I wanted it, when I thought it was supposed to be, He always kept that fire burning to say, don't give up. He put people in my life that said, don't give up. He said, keep going. Keep going. There's a story in that book that everybody always, where he's talking about loving difficult people. And so I think that's certainly what Jesus wants us to do, right? He doesn't want us to just love the people that look like us,
That's right.
or that act like us, or that go to the same school as us, or that go to the same church as us, or whoever. He wants us to love everybody. And this guy told a story how he would carry around a little bucket. He would keep this little bucket with him every day to remind himself, Lord, fill my bucket with patience. Every time he would get to where, somebody pulling out in traffic, and you're going to say something, he fill my bucket with patience. And that's what I've asked God to do for me too, to keep my heart full of love, and to fill my bucket with patience, and to know that it happens on His time, not my time. So all this has taught me a lot of lessons. And I hope in some of what I've said tonight, it helps teach you guys some lessons, or give you a roadmap, or whatever. I get up every day now. Every day. And make sure to pray about what I'm thankful for. Pray for the blessings that have been given me. To not focus on what's not going right in my life. To not focus on the bank account, or the car, or the drama going on over here, or whatever outside, whatever's going wrong. Put your faith and be thankful for what is going right. When you do that, it changes your entire perspective. It makes you appreciate stuff.
much more. It kind of taught me love wins. Don't ever let anybody tell you it doesn't. It'll win every time. And I think, and again, guys, I'm certainly no preacher. I'm not, man, I haven't been to Bible study in too many years. I couldn't, I'm not going to stand up here and quote that, but God will even use a regular guy like me. And at the end of the day, I think what really matters is how we treat people. Love's not just a word. It's an action word. We can say all kinds of things. We can say we're going to do this. We can say we're going to show up. We can say we're going to give to charity. We can say we're going to do whatever it is. Real love is actually doing it. Is showing up. Is being kind. Is being a good person. Is keeping a smile on your face. And as Christians and as followers of Jesus, I think that's the most important thing He wants us to do. He wants us to be able to go out in the world and through our actions and the way we treat people for others to see His light. You ain't got to go quoting Bible verses. It's in your actions and how you treat others. It's about family. Family. Always stick with your family because they're always going to be with you. So just be trust the plan. I think any of you in this room right now, any of you can do anything you want to do. Trust the plan. Set your mind to it. Set goals. Want things for the right reasons. It's not for your glory, but it's for the glory of God.
Amen.
It's not to serve you, it's to serve others.
That's right.
I'm a walking miracle, guys. Really, you look at that picture, I shouldn't be here. I should not be alive. But somehow, by the grace of God, He saved me. He saved me. And tonight, He led me right here to talk to y'all. I appreciate you listening. Hope it wasn't too awkward for my son. Probably a little bit more now that I said that. But anyway, I'm gonna close with, I'm gonna read one more little passage out of this. Some good words, some good just thoughts to end on. How much we love God can be measured by how much we love people. From Matthew 22, verse 37 through 40. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbors as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Love God, love each other.
That's right.
Ain't no sense in complicating it any more than that.
That's right.
It's that easy. So here's the story in this. So when I first started following Jesus, there were times I was a little confused by what it meant to love God. He's invisible, right? I don't know about you, but I find it hard to love someone you can't see, touch, or hear. I know we can pray, and I've done a lot of it since I've had teenagers. But even prayer feels somehow a little different than just loving a God we can't see. So I looked around at different religious leaders to see what they meant when they said they loved God. It seemed like a lot of them meant they spent a lot of time reading the Bible or reading books about the Bible or teaching people how to think about God. I know those are common things people do when they love God, but it still didn't seem like the way to love God. I finally figured it out, and when I went back to the words Jesus spoke to his friends, some people asked him what the greatest commandment could be. And Jesus told them their greatest commandment was to love God with all their heart, soul, and mind. Then he said, and the second one is like it. The second commandment is to love our neighbors as ourselves. Loving God, not like loving the people he made and put all around him. Everyone is made in the image of God. So every person reflects a part of God's creative expression in this world in one way or the other. Think about the people God has put in your life already and the characteristics you see in them that inform your understanding of God. So I'm going to really do this. Ask yourself one more question. Who in your life is teaching you about the nature of God's love these days? Get to know those people. Talk to them. All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all
Thank
have a
you.
great night.
Thank